it is more challenging. I mean, I haven't bought, I mean, we still do 2 to 3 deals a month, but
Mhm.
I haven't bought a property, a single family house out of a multiple listing service that was listed with a realtor in over 5 years since COVID came
Wow.
along. It's been that
Yeah.
long. So the question is, how do I find these deals? Well, all these single family houses we buy are for sale by owner. They are off market. And so
Mhm.
how do we find these sellers that are potentially motivated? Here's the answer.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Connor.
All right. Jay, welcome to the show. Everybody, my special guest, Jay Connor, is a legend in the private lending and real estate industry. Jay, why don't you give everybody a quick synopsis of what you do, what you're up to, and we'll kick it off.
Sure, Bo. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to come along and talk about my most passionate subject, that being private money and private lending for real estate deals, because private money and private lending's had more of an impact on my real estate investing career than any other strategy. My wife, Carol Joy, and I, we're here in Eastern North Carolina. This is where I grew up, Morehead City, Atlantic Beach. Our total target market's only 40,000 people. And we started investing full time in single family houses in 2003. So we've been in it for quite a while. Today, we'll do 2 to 3 houses a month. A lot of them, due to the market these days, we flip, and we flipped over 500 houses. Our average profits right now are running $86,000
Wow.
per transaction. And I don't share that to brag or come from a position of ego at all. I share that to make a point. And that is, there's a strong argument to be made to invest in the outlying areas or smaller markets or smaller towns instead of the big cities, because I don't have to compete with all those other real estate investors. I'd much rather be a big fish in a small pond. But yes, we've been doing this since 2003. The first 6 years that we were investing in single family houses, I relied on the local banks, Bo. That's all I knew to do. Go to the local bank or the mortgage company and apply for a mortgage. And, the bank would make me pull up my skirt and show them my personal assets and give my financial statements and pull my credit. And that worked out okay for the first 6 years. But then everything changed in January 2009.
Yep, that was a big time in the in this nation.
Yeah, 2007, 8, and 9, you had all those foreclosures coming along, and the banks weren't loaning money. So you had to have the cash in order to, do those deals. But because of my experience in January of 2009, our business tripled in 2009. And here's what happened. For 6 years, a particular bank here locally, it was BB&T at the time, now it's Truist, was my main funding source. Bo, I had never heard of hard money lenders. I didn't know anything about private money or hard money, which, by the way, they are very different. We'll talk about that. But the only way I knew to fund my deals is to go to the local bank and, apply for mortgages. And in January of 2009, I called up my banker. I'd had the same banker funding my deals for 6 years. And I had 2 houses under contract to purchase. I thought I still had a line of credit when I made that phone call. And I get on the phone with my banker, and I learned like that, Bo, that my line of credit had been closed with no notice to me. And I said to him, I said, what in the world are you telling me? My line of credit is closed. I said, we've had a great business relationship for 6 years. I've never been late on my payments. And I got a great credit score, 800 credit score. Why are you closing my line of credit? And my banker said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? And I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund these two deals. And he said, well, I'm sorry, we're not loaning money out to real estate investors. So, Bo, I sat here at my desk for a moment and I thought to myself, and I asked myself a very powerful question. And the power is in asking the right questions. And I want to share this question with you and your audience that I asked myself that changed the trajectory of my business forever. And by the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. Let's face the fact. And this question I'm getting ready to share that I asked myself, it will help fix any problem anybody's got. I don't care if it's health, relationships, business, career, finances. It don't matter. Here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, who, it's who, not how. I said, who do you know that can help fix your problem? And when I asked myself that question, I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship. He's a dear friend. He was living in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. He was investing in single family houses. And I called up and told Jeff the story. And Jeff said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. And I said, what club is that, Jeff? He said, that's the club of having banks close down your line of credit. He said, my bank closed my line of credit down last week. I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to fund your deals? He said, well, there's this gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida, by the name of Ron LeGrand. He said, have you ever heard of Ron LeGrand? I said, no. He said, well, Ron says that he can show us how to get a lot of private money. I said, well, Jeff, what's private money? He says, well, I'm not sure. And then he says, Ron also says that he can teach us how to use self-directed IRA companies to fund our deals where people are using their retirement funds. I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what in the world you're talking about. I said, what is private money? He said, Jay, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it really, really quick. I said, good. I got 2 houses under contract. Let's go to the conference. So, Bo, that's what I did. I went to my very first real estate investing conference in February of 2009 to learn about private money and what in the world it is. Well, let me tell you, I learned about private money. I came back home, and the first thing I did, Bo, was I tell students all the time, the first thing you need to do to start raising private money is own the real estate between your ears. What I mean by that is have the right mindset. So the mindset I took on was I'm tired and I'm through when it comes to borrowing money. I'm not going to do any more chasing, begging, selling, persuading, filling out applications and applying by the lender's rules. The mindset I took on, which is a 180-degree turnaround, I took on the mindset of, you know what? I'm going to put a program together. I'm going to put an opportunity together that I can share with people initially in my own market, my own connections, people I go to church with, people in my cell phone, people at the Rotary Club, etc. And I can share with them this opportunity about becoming a private lender and how to earn high rates of return safely and securely. Part of my mindset, Bo, is putting on my teacher hat. And my teacher hat says private money teacher. So here's a writer downer. Desperation has got a smell to it. And what I mean by that is, if I'm talking with a new potential private lender in the initial conversation and I'm talking with them about a deal that I need funded, I already sound desperate. in the same conversation. So part of the big secret of how to never ask for money is separating the conversations between sharing the opportunity, the program, with a new potential private lender, and then having a deal for them to fund. What's interesting as to how that works is right now, Carol Joy and I've got 47 private lenders that are funding our real estate deals. Now, you don't need 47 private lenders starting out. One or two will get you going. But here's what's interesting, due to the teacher mentality, not one of these 47 private lenders ever heard of private money until I exposed them to it. Not one of them ever heard of self-directed IRAs and how people can take existing retirement accounts wherever they are, move them over to a self-directed IRA company, a third-party custodian approved by the IRS, and then invest those funds and be a private lender. And the money they earn is either tax-deferred or tax-free, depending on the retirement account they got. So that's a critical framing and critical mindset that I'm a teacher. I'm just exposing this opportunity to people. And then when I've got a deal for them to fund, once they've told me they like the program, they like the interest rate, they like the rate of return, they like how they're protected, then I call them up with what I call, Bo, the good news phone calls. So if you will allow me, I'm going to take a moment and share the exact script that I say to people when I need my real estate deal funded without asking for money. And then I'm going to turn it back to you, Bo. So let's hypothetically, something back to you, Bo. So let's say you and I have known each other, and let's say that I have put on my teacher hat and I've shared with you the opportunity about private money and private lending. Let's also hypothetically assume that I learned in my conversation with you that you have $150,000 sitting in a 401k from a previous employer that you used to work with, and you're not happy with those returns. And let's also assume I've introduced you to a self-directed IRA company that I recommend, and you've moved that money over and you want me to invest your funds. So that's the setup right there. A week or two goes by, and now I will call you up, Bo, as one of my new private lenders. Here is the exact script, the exact words that I would say to you, Bo, as one of my new private lenders for a deal to get funded. And here's the way it goes. I call you up. We have a little chit chat, a little pleasantry. And then here's exactly what I say. I call it the good news phone call. I say, Bo, I've got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract to purchase here in Newport, North Carolina, with an after repaired value of $200,000. Now, the funding required matches up to what you've got in your self-directed IRA account. That's $150,000. So the funding requires $150,000 for this $200,000 after repaired value house. Now, closing is going to be next Friday, and you'll need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Thursday. I want to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing I could say to you, Bo, is, do you want to fund the deal? Of course you want to fund the deal. And here are 3 reasons why you are ecstatic and can't wait to fund my deal. Number 1, you already trusted me and moved your money of $150,000 over to the self-directed IRA company that I recommended you do. You're looking to me to perform and deliver. That's number 1. The number 2 reason why you want to fund my deal is, you know, I'm not going to bring a deal for you to fund that doesn't match the criteria of the program I already taught you. You already know the interest rate. You already know the maximum loan to value, which is 75% of the after repaired value. In that little example, that's what it is. After repaired value of $200,000, not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. That's the second reason. You know, I'm not going to bring a deal that doesn't match the criteria of the program I taught you. And the third reason that Bo is ecstatic to fund my deal is because he's not making any money. until I put his money to work, which of
Mhm.
course he moved over at my recommendation. So again, don't miss this point. Separate conversations with private lenders of the program that you're offering and then having a deal for them to fund.
So your typical deals that you're doing, what's your typical raise on a particular home, do you think, an average raise?
Sure. So it's really all over the board. I use higher amounts of money from private lenders for purchases, and then I'll use smaller amounts of money, which my minimum is $50,000. I'll use smaller amounts of money for renovations. So I've got some private lenders that only have $50,000 with me. I have other private lenders that have over $1 million with me. So we just simply take the amount of money that they have and match it up to the deal. So in answer to your question, the median price in our area right now is $350,000 of an after repaired value home that's in beautiful condition, totally repaired and ready for Southern Living Magazine pictures. So that's the price that we sell it at. But again, we don't borrow more than 75% of that after repaired value. So, on a $400,000 home that is beautiful, that I have me and my team have renovated, I wouldn't borrow more than $300,000 on that $400,000 after repaired value home. Now, I may have more than one private lender that's funding that deal because everything we do is called one-offs. So we're not regulated doing business like this by the Security Exchange Commission because we're not raising money for a fund. Every note we do is an asset-backed note. So we collateralize with a deed of trust in North Carolina. Most states call it a mortgage. So we're not borrowing unsecured money. The private lender is going to know what position they're in, and their note is going to be collateralized by that individual property.
So in your example where you're using hard money, private lending to borrow $300,000, what's the average rate of return that the investor is getting?
Right. So remember, big difference between hard money and private money. Hard money is going to be an institutional lender or a broker that has gone out and raised money for their fund. So a hard money lender, they're going to be requiring 12%, 14% and origination fees. But with my private lender, I pay them a straight 8%, no points, no origination fees, no extension fees. And the private lenders are so happy with this 8% because there's no middle person involved. It's a one-on-one transaction, and 8% is so much more money than they can get at the local bank.
8% on the money you're borrowing. So if you're borrowing $300,000, you're going to give them $24,000 return.
If I have it for the entire year. Because that's
that was going to be my question. So if you flip this, if you buy the house, rehab the house, and flip it within, let's just say on a long period, 60 days, you're going to take that annual, the 8%, divide by 12, and basically you're going to give them the pro rata of that over 60 days.
Yeah, they're only going to get paid money while I'm using the money on a particular property. However, as an incentive, and I never cash out a deal in 60 days. My renovations, on average, from the time I buy, renovate, and cash out, are typically going to be in that 6 month to 9 month period on a flip.
Wow. So you're spending a lot of time renovating.
Well, not spending a lot of time renovating. I got 12 projects going all the time, and my contractors can't keep up with me. So it's going to sit there for 90 days on average before anybody gets to it. So the average length of time on a renovation, depending on the extent of it, I mean, I just finished a $135,000 renovation, which is totally out of the ordinary. Most of our renovations are between $40,000 and $50,000. Those renovations are going to be done within 60 days. But as an incentive for my private lenders to do business with me, in the promissory note, I promise them that in the unlikely event that I cash out in less than 6 months, I'm still going to pay them 6 months worth of interest.
Which is about 4%, which really is cheap money. I mean, it's a great return for the investors, but for you, it's cheap money.
Oh yeah. So it's like cheap money compared to what? Right? It's cheap money compared to hard money, big time.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, even if you're syndicating real estate, which is what we do, we syndicate for multifamily.
Right.
I mean, our investors are anywhere between 15 to 20% plus IRR.
Right. And what length of time is that?
I mean, typical hold periods are 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm. So is that 15 to 20% over the 3-year period?
No. That's annualized.
So that's annualized.
Basically, you take the time value of the money over that 3 to 5 years, and it averages out to 15% plus, basically
per year.
Yeah.
That's a great return. That's a great return.
But that more falls in line with what you're talking about on the hard money side.
Correct. Yep. Well, and here's the deal. When I made the point and shared that all 47 of my private lenders, and none of them had ever heard of private money or private lending or self-directed IRAs, the reason it works and is a win-win for them and a win-win for me is because this world is brand new to them.
Yeah.
It's all brand new. And 8% compared to 0.5% in a savings account or 3% in a CD, that's almost too good to be true. So when I'm doing business, or should I say, if I were doing business with an existing private lender, such as your existing private investors that invest in your fund, that would be a whole different conversation. Because they have been exposed and spoiled.
Yeah, right.
So now it's going to become a negotiation conversation, and I'd much rather be a teacher than a negotiator.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, because most of the people that we're working with are either family offices or high net worth individuals, right?
Exactly.
I mean, these are sophisticated investors that understand, time value of money and what the market does, but your everyday person that's not considered for people have to be what's called an accredited investor to be able to invest with us.
Sure.
The people that you're dealing with are probably not considered an accredited investor.
Well, you know what's funny about that, Bo? So out of these 47 private lenders, probably 25% of them are accredited investors, but you know what? They don't even know they are. They don't even know what an accredited investor is, right?
Yeah.
So as I say, the magic behind this formula and this process is exposing people to this world of private money that's never heard about it.
Yeah. Well, on top of that is you are 100% right. Getting someone involved in a self-directed IRA, because now you control your own destiny and you mitigate any tax liability that you would if, let's just say, they weren't in an IRA and they made 8% on their money. Well, at the end of the year, you would have to submit a K-1 to them that they would have to turn into their accountant to account for that income at the end of the year. But what you're doing is brilliant, because you can defer that tax liability, as long as you technically want, until you can start collecting on the IRA.
Correct. It's beautiful. I mean, if they've got a Roth IRA, which is in the minority of the circumstances, but if they have a Roth IRA, I can pay them unlimited money per year, tax-free on their side, because the Roth IRA is an IRA that's made from after-tax dollars. And there's one example I give of somebody having a Roth IRA, and when I share this, it just blows their mind because they never heard of this concept. I love teaching this to Rotary Club members because they're always looking for the new information and they're always looking for a speaker. I'll say, look, I'll show you how to make $20,000 tax-free off of a $100 investment within 60 days. And they're saying there's no way too good to be true. And I'll just show them the scenario of, well, take $100 and open up a Roth IRA at the self-directed IRA company. Take that $100 and go find a deal and get it under a real estate deal, get it under contract, single family house. And you can assign that option or that contract out for a $20,000 assignment fee. And whatever that assignment fee comes back into your IRA tax free. Of course, I'm speaking a language they never heard of, but
Yep. But
But
so, what do you think, like, with all of your private lenders? You said you had 40 some private lenders.
that's right.
What do you think your raise capability is?
Well, I've raised right now $8.5 million that I just use over and over again. I have not intentionally raised or put on my teacher hat to new potential private leader for many years, because I just use the money over and over and over again. You know, that doesn't mean that years ago when the real estate market was slower, that doesn't mean that I didn't buy and hold with private money. For instance, today, Bo, I just checked it out a couple of weeks ago. First Citizens Bank, right here on Bridges Street, Morehead City, North Carolina, commercial rate for landlord buy and hold is over 8% right now. And look, when I'm paying a private lender 8% and no points and no jump fees and no extension fees, number one, that's less than the commercial rates. And secondly, there's no hurry to pay it back, as long as I'm getting that positive cash flow, of course.
Yep. No, you're 100% right. And on top of that, not having to go through all of the BS with the bank of, you know, all the paperwork and like you mentioned, lifting your skirt and showing everybody, you know, especially if you go the SBA route, which is even worse.
Right. I've never gone that route, but I've heard about it.
Oh, I mean, I get it. I mean, I get what they're trying to achieve, trying to help small business, but yeah, I mean, you basically got to hand over your firstborn, you know.
That's right. But now look, when we get off of this show, Bo, I want to talk to you about investing in your deal.
Okay. That sounds good. One question that I have too is, where are you finding your deals? I think I used to do flips back in the day. I did flips around when you started, about, 08, 09, when the market was, foreclosures were everywhere. Right. And then I feel like HGTV came around and started doing all these shows, and now everybody and their brother wanted to do fix and flips. And then the market, at least the market around here, I felt got very soft and it was hard to find a deal. So where do you find your deals now?
That's a great question, because I mean, I have now been investing in single family houses in Eastern North Carolina for 22 years nonstop. And it is more challenging. I mean, I haven't bought, we still do 2 to 3 deals a month, but I haven't bought a property, a single family house, out of a multiple listing service that was listed with a realtor in over 5 years, since COVID came along. It's been that long. So the question is, how do I find these deals? Well, all these single family houses we buy are for sale by owner. They are off market. And so how do we find these sellers that are potentially motivated? Here's the answer. Number one, ever since 2004, Carol Joy and I have been tracking and offering our services to every family facing foreclosure since 2004, 21 years. We've been doing that. We have a series of 8 letters we mail 3 days apart. Of course, COVID came along and shut all that down for a year and a half, for 18 months. But other than that 18-month period, we do sequential mailings through our foreclosures, offering solutions. I'm not out here taking advantage of anybody. In fact, most of these people facing foreclosure will sell on terms subject to the existing note, to where you don't even have to use private money unless you want to use it in second position to bring payments current, renovations or whatever. So we direct mail all people that are facing foreclosure. Secondly, inherited properties. Inherited properties. So
Interesting.
we direct mail all property owners and heirs of inherited properties, again, to offer that solution. We mail those letters 90 days apart for 2 years, because some people want to do something quickly, some people don't. We never bring up that we know that this is an inherited property, because there's no need to exacerbate and stir painful emotions. We're just here buying properties in this particular area and wondering if you're interested in selling. It's that simple. So foreclosures, inherited properties. Thirdly, I'm now using a brand new service that's called AI Driving for Dollars. AI Driving for Dollars. What in the world is AI Driving for Dollars? Well, so there's this AI service that's actually still in beta testing, and I just launched it a month ago. And so you give the service your zip codes that you invest in. They then take those zip codes, put it in the AI service, and AI uses Google Maps and Google Earth to actually look at all the pictures up here sideways of houses in your zip codes. And AI has 16 different points of distress that it's looking for on the property, in the yard, on the house, on the roof, the windows, etc. And then they give you a scoring system, 1 to 100. So for properties between 80 and 100, it's pretty close to a teardown. The sweet spot is between 60 and 100 on their scoring, but 1 through 50 still has some size of distress. We're doing a 90-day direct mail campaign to those properties. But on top of all that, we have 7 different companies, vendors, that are Google pay-per-lead companies. And these Google pay-per-lead companies, I'm only paying for a lead. This is a owner of a property that's gone on the website and typed in their information and hit the submit button. So now they're raising their hand looking for us real estate investors to buy their house quickly for whatever kind of reason. I get more leads from those 7 services than I do any of the other marketing methods put together.
Okay. That's AI. That AI is your platform, is something you built out?
No, it's a fellow mastermind member that I met a couple of months ago and had a mastermind meeting, and he was telling me about this AI platform that he had built out, and he's a software geeky nerd, and I am not a geeky greased monkey, as you can probably tell. But anyway, he built this platform out, and so I'm testing it right now.
That's pretty cool. Do you use any other platforms like Crexy or CoStar to try and find distressed property or people's where their loans are distressed or maturing?
Actually, I haven't heard of those 2 services. I'd love to hear more about them.
Yeah, I mean, CoStar is basically the back end of the MLS, right? It's it has every single property you can think of and all of the information on that property. It's mostly used for commercial. I don't know if you can look up residential. You might be able to, but I know for sure on Crexy, CREXI, that you can pull up residential properties that might be in a distressed status with their loan.
Oh, now when you say distressed with their loan, does that mean it reports they might be behind?
Correct.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Well,
because I know what a lot.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What I know a lot of guys do is, they do very similar to what you do, like a grassroots style, right? But then they also leverage these platforms, and then they've got VAs that are on the phone, auto dialing all of these properties, because they'll get laundry lists of properties that have distressed loans on them, and just saying, hey, are you interested in selling? Are you interested in, like you said, sub 2, which I don't know. Do you know Pace Morby?
Oh, Pace Morby. We're in a mastermind together.
Yeah. I mean, that's Pace's thing, his Gator method with the sub 2. That's kind of his thing. So yeah, you nailed it right on the head there.
Well, I've got an amazing outbound calling service.
Okay.
that I recently started using. I mean, now I've got Filipino VAs. Nothing against Filipino VAs. I've got
So do
I
I.
got 5 of them.
Yep.
For my outbound calling, I want the American Southern twang if I can. And so the outbound callers that I use are American. And so I'm going to check out this Crixie thing that I can't, it amazes me, Bo. And that's what I love about this business. There's always new things to learn and new strategies to learn. And I'm always learning. I can't get my appetite filled when it comes to learning marketing strategies.
I know.
And so thank you for sharing Crixie with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. Marketing is man, it's a science. It's a total science on marketing, especially when you're doing paid ads with Google and Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. I mean, there's so much to it.
There really is. And I have such an amazing team. I actually work in the business less than 10 hours per week. And what I love to do still, I've had the same acquisitionist talking to my sellers for 20 years. Kim has been with me for 20 years talking to sellers. And, but what I love to do is like what you just shared with me, Crixie. I love testing new marketing, vendors, resources, strategies, and then measuring it. How in the world I work in this business less than 10 hours per week is because of the CRM, the software that we use. It's driven by Go High Level, GHL.
Oh yeah.
And Kim and I never talk. I mean, literally, we never talk. It's all the communication is in the software. And so when like one of those Google, you got me all excited now, Bo, when one of them leads comes in from a Google lead service, well, we got Zapier software attached to all of them. It automatically puts the lead in our software. And you know what we just kicked off 2 months ago, Bo? We now have AI within less than 2 minutes starts texting, very conversational texting with that lead. And the purpose and objective of the AI with that lead is to set the telephone appointment for Kim to talk to them about their property. And prior to 6 weeks ago, Bo, I'm really getting excited now. Prior to 6 weeks ago, it would take Kim a day, 2 days, 3 days of calling and texting to get that owner of that property on the phone. And now the appointment is being set within 5 to 10 minutes of that lead coming in.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I'm about to blow your mind even more. Have you seen the AI phone calls yet?
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it or actually experienced it.
Yeah. So you can actually, because I use Go High Level as well. So I use Go High Level and HubSpot. And so in both platforms, you can utilize a AI conversation app where it will, when that lead call or fills out the lead form, it will automatically auto dial the lead, call the lead, have a conversation with the lead, similar to the conversation that Kim is having with the lead, and be able to book, the appointment or book whatever you're trying to book. And because I've had a couple of people on the podcast that they run these platforms, and their closing percentage is amazing. It's through the roof.
No,
but
you
here's the other.
Me after the.
I will
after the show. You got to introduce me.
I will. But here's the other side of that is I'm like, I'm not telling you this to try and get rid of Kim, but if the AI conversationalist, the AI platform can book, you could basically scale the amount of appointments or bookings that you could do, because Kim can only do so much in a day, but with AI, the sky's the limit, right?
Correct.
So those once you qualify those leads out that run through your funnel, you could, let's just say, I'm just going to throw numbers out. Let's say you're getting, 10 good leads per month that end up closing deals with you. You might be able to get 30 good leads that close a deal with you per month, right? Because you've got AI handling more of that back end stuff. And then Kim can just be managing the whole sequence.
Sure.
That's
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. And the conversations are so, they sound like you're talking to a human. It's scary how good it is.
Oh, my lands. Well, I just started hearing about that a few months ago, but I haven't experienced it. And I mean, I see what's going on with texting. I mean, there might be a way to combine with the same AI service. They text and they call.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. And here's what's interesting, because I brought this up with my guest that I had on that did this. I said to him, I said, well, I've always thought, especially as of recently, that most people don't want to talk on the phone. They don't like to be bothered. They just would rather be text, right? Because if I see a number come up on my phone that's calling me and I don't know it, I'm not answering it, right? I'll wait for them to leave a message, and if it's relevant and it's important to me, then I'll call them back.
Sure.
But if you text me, I'm sure to respond. And he said, this is what was interesting. He said, it's a generational thing. He said, you're of that generation where, you're more, it's more of the older generation that's more apt to text than to accept phone calls. The younger generation are more apt to take phone calls than they are to take texts.
Really?
Yes. I was really surprised by that.
I am too. I didn't think the younger generation knew how to talk.
I know. But yeah, that seemed, according to their data, it seems that the younger generation pick up the phone much more often than the older generation.
Well, Bo, you just made the case that if you're using AI or you're not using AI, I mean, this is why I had Kim for months and months and months. I had Kim texting and calling 3 times a day to that lead for 3 days in a row. But now you just made the point with AI, call and text, because you really don't know the generational, the generation of that person on the other end. Now, I tell you another thing that I discovered. I think over the years, so 2 of my 7 Google vendors that are finding motivated sellers for me, 2 of them automatically dial my phone and dial Kim's phone immediately after that lead comes in. And you can tap 1 on your cell phone and that automatically calls them immediately. And you know what I've discovered? I mean, you wait an hour, you wait 2 hours to try to get it with somebody. They don't even remember they called you or texted you.
Yep.
Because, you're not the only game in town. They're doing all this other stuff. But what I discovered, when I have that lead come in and I tap 1 and it calls them immediately, over 90% of them pick up because they're right there in the middle of that activity. They're not recognizing the phone number. But they just hit the submit button and now somebody's calling them.
Yep. Yeah. That's very common. But now imagine if you could have AI do that, because you're only one person who can do 1 call, but AI can do 10 calls all at once, right?
Oh, my lands. I'm so excited.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. I mean, imagine what the next 5 years is going to be like. I say this all the time on the podcast. I mean, the way that AI and technology is going, I mean, it's going to be crazy, the amount of scalability. If you're on the right side and you use these technologies the right way, the way that you can scale and the way that you can improve operations and become way more efficient is going to be very underrated.
Right. Well, I'm all excited about it. And, I had a guest on my podcast last week, maybe the week before last, and they were predicting, or they had read a prediction, that within the next 5 years, 30% of the workforce will no longer be needed doing whatever they were doing. And actually, my guest said it's really not 5 years. They think it's more like 3 years, especially. But you know what? I'm not worried about all them people being out of work. And here's why. When the internet came along and computers came along, they said, oh, we're going to, half of the workforce is going to be out of work. No, what changes is what is then needed to run this world. We're just running the world in a different way.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've had a lot of AI people on this podcast because I love the subject, and I've brought that argument up, and Some of them have said exactly what you said, because I've used the example, like when the printing press was invented, right? They thought back then, that, oh my God, all of these people are going to be without work, but it actually created more work. And then when, like you said, the internet and computers, but it actually creates more job. The only pushback that I got from a guest on the whole AI subject is they said, the problem with AI is it's not like those other technologies, because the market was able to adapt to those technologies because the technology had to grow into the market. But they said that AI is advancing so quickly that the market can't keep up. And so that could be the limitation to in being able to keep people employed, because AI is going to take jobs away.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, that's a good point. I never even heard of AI until March 2023. March 2023, I was in a mastermind, and being a member of mastermind groups has been the number one strategy that has kept me on the edge. And but there was a presentation, a speaker there at our mastermind meeting, and he started talking about AI and how fast he was going to go. And I said, and now I look back to March of 2023, and I said, I'll be John Brown. I mean, hey, look, a friend of mine who is a fellow podcaster and very successful real estate investor, he is now, but now he's left real estate investor, and he's a private lender. That's all he's doing. Well, I could say hard money lender, because he makes the rules. He sets the interest rate, right? Mm-hmm. And I had him on the show last week. His name's Rich Lennon, great guy. And he's in Virginia, next door to me. And he was telling me that, he said, it only takes me less than 3 hours to underwrite a deal. I mean, from start to finish. And I said, well, Rich, let me ask you a question. I said, how are you getting your appraisal or desktop appraisal or your comps pulled or whatever so quickly, or know what you're looking at? His answer, AI. He uses Grok. Grok is the platform that he likes. And he has got a prompt. Now, he promised me he was going to send it to me. I don't have it yet. I got to wear him out. But he's got a prompt that he has written that he puts in AI to give him the after repaired value of a physical property, not the as-is value. After repaired value, assuming everything is in beautiful condition. And he says in less than 10 seconds, it gives me all the comps, all the physical properties, all the adjustments to square footage, etc. In 10 seconds, he's got the after repaired value. Amazing. That's what I'm saying. The next 5 years is going to be crazy. And it's already getting crazy pretty fast. Yeah, I know. Jay, this was a lot of fun. Where can everybody reach out to you, learn about you, learn to become a student of yours, all of that jazz? Absolutely. Or invest? Well, the best way to connect with Jay Conner is for me to give you a gift. And the gift I would love to give is my recent best-selling book, which is called Where to Get the Money Now. And the subtitle is How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. And this is not an ebook. This is a physical book. You can spend $20 on Amazon, but don't do that. Then let me give you the book for free. You can pick it up at www. And by the way, I want to express mail this to you. The United States Postal Service is still in business. So you can pick it up at www.jayconner, and I'm an ER, not an OR. So JAYCONNER.com/book. Again, that's JAYCONNER.com/book. Just cover shipping and handling. I'll autograph it. And I actually have in the book the exact program and opportunity that I teach to my new private lenders. That's great. That's going to be really valuable. We'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well. Jay, thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this, and let's keep in touch. Bo, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Yes, thank you, sir.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.